So I'm just going to just talk about a little bit in regards to the Shadowhunter rework. I know I did mention back then that I was just going to do in my community tab. I did mention that I was going to do like an hour-long discussion. I scrapped that video all entirely. I wasn't feeling that video, if I'm being 100% honest. But yeah, instead of just going over trying to explain everything, because even though I will try to explain everything to the best of my abilities, I know there's going to be someone that's just going to find the other way around, and I'm just going to try to explain that everything that here it is fine, because yeah, I really just need to just let everyone know in regards to, okay, you know, the Shadowhunter is completely fine, and you don't have to worry too much about it, because people are just saying that, oh yeah, it's not the best at anything, which is untrue, by the way. And yeah, I'm just going to be talking about everything here. And the thing is, I just wanted to do this because it is just getting kind of annoying. I know this might just get cooled down in the future, and people are just going to be like, okay, it is going to be just fine, the character is just fine. It's the same thing that happened with the Colormancer, but this one is on a much bigger extent because of the popularity of the Shadowhunter. I'm just going to say before I get the Colormancer never actually did get nerfed, which is completely untrue. I made a video just explaining the Colormancer on the very day one version, and the Colormancer got nerfed, I do believe twice or even 3 times, I don't remember. But it got nerfed multiple times before it actually launched on the live server. And heck, when it launched on the live server, it got like a small damage reduction on, I do believe it was Mini Bloom. I just wanted to talk about like most of the things that just going on with the Shadowhunter. And right now I have my community tab right here where I just posted a video. I already see a couple of comments of people just talking about it, and I'm going to tackle out some of those comments and some of those things, and as well I'm just going to be mentioning what is going on, and just trying to let you know that this is fine. The reason I'm making also this video is just because I do get a lot of people just coming in, and then I just have to explain, hey, everything is fine and whatever, yada yada yada. And it's the same thing if I check on some of the other Discord people. Some people are just complaining. I went into the Xbox, there's people that are just going all over the place and just say, oh yeah, no, it's not good or whatever. And I just wanted to let everyone know this is fine, the character is fine, it is outstanding, it's still the best overall class in the entire game, it's better than Ice Age, and especially now that Ice Age got basic attack nerfed, and it is not that big of a nerf, like the Ice Age is still pretty disgusting, but the Shadowhunter is just the most complete class in the entire game. Like, I powered on my Shadowhunter that you're seeing in the background footage from around 14,000 power rank, and I grinded all the way to 31,000 power rank in the private test server. And I know, like, I know how easy it was for me to actually just get the character to around 31,000 power rank. And let me just tell you, like, around 21,000 power rank, I was already doing over 10. Granted, yes, this was before the 2.5 times damage multiplier nerf, but I still was grinding at around 24,000 power rank post nerf. So yeah, the character is just entirely fine, and it's really, really good. And right now, to the point that I'm doing like constantly 250 dungeons per hour, just grinding without pirates and grinding without max gear. Like, I'm still missing a lot of base movement speed right there, and not to mention the the lag on the PTS is just ridiculous sometimes. And yeah, so the Shadowhunter is fine, and I am going to tackle out some of the more common things that I do see, and I'm just going to go over why is it not that, not that bad as people make it out to be. So first things first, the first thing that I do see is that the Shadowhunter doesn't fit in the current meta. So let me just tell me, what is the meta for you? Is it deep delving? Is it Uber 10 grinding? Is it overall? Is it whatever, like end game, mid game, overall character, whatever you want to call it? What is a meta for you? If we're talking about pure DPS, I'm going to show you a little screenshot right here. That screenshot that you're going to see right now on screen, this screenshot actually just tells you in regards to the DPS over the span of 60 seconds. And as you're going to see, the Shadowhunter is above every single character after the February 2022. So this is after February 11th. This was posted after the February 11th patch. And yes, Shadowhunter is literally the highest DPS character in the entire game. Before it was, Lunar Lancer for a little bit, but that was with full setup, which is ridiculous. And then obviously the Chloromancer with full setup is the highest overall DPS in the entire game. Right now on the live server on October 2021, which was the time of this patch note. Shout out to Lunar Station for this. Like, she just went crazy on just doing testing. And yeah, yes, the Shadowhunter is doing the highest DPS in the entire game. So it is right now the best boss killer despite the nerf. And obviously, like I just mentioned, this might get changed in the future because the ultimate ability still works exactly the same as pre-nerf. They mentioned that they nerfed the tick rate of every single second, but it still takes every half a second right now, even after the February 11th patch. It's the same with the attacks per second on the basic attack. The attacks per second on the basic attack is still 12 attacks per second, so they never changed it. They only changed the bonus that you actually do get before, where the bonus before was 400% of your attack speed, now it's 300%. But so in other words, you're shooting from max to max, so in 12 attacks per second. So the character still is almost exactly the same. The only thing that it actually did get nerfed on February 11th was the damage that it got from 3.25 to 2.5, which I'm going to tackle that right now. The 2.5 times damage multiplier is a high damage multiplier for a basic attack. Yes, I know that other characters got his basic attack damage buff, but no character in the entire game shoots or attacks more than 8 attacks per second. The only character that attacks more than 7 is Gunslinger, but you already know what happened to Gunslinger. And all of the rest of the characters in the entire game, I mean all of them, and that includes the third fastest basic attack in the entire game, which is the Knight. And the Knight at 300% is attacking at 6.375 attacks per second. The Shadowhunter is attacking at 12 while doing similar damage to all of those characters. Like the Neon Ninja is 2.85, and that is going to be doing 6 attacks per second at maximum. Vanguardian is doing like 3.4 something ridiculous, but that's only attacking 4.5 attacks per second. The Knight is doing 4.55 times damage multiplier, but again 6 attacks per second. And then if we move on to stuff like Lunar Lancer, 3 times damage multiplier, but it's only attacking at 5 attacks per second. And the list goes on and on and on and on. Like literally all of the characters are shooting half the speed of the Shadowhunter, while Shadowhunter doing 2.5 and maintaining the same speed. Not to mention the Shadowhunter is the only character that is able to see enemies through walls and it shoot enemies through walls. I was doing some testing on the Shadowhunter, and I was able, like with the boss finder mod, which by the way I was actually using the mod for the very first time, which is what you're seeing right now on screen. This is literally the very first time that I'm ever using a mod, and I was just seeing the enemies, the beacon, the enemies through walls, and I'm literally just shooting downwards, just killing the enemy before even entering the dungeon. And it is pretty outstanding, the fact that you can do that because you're able to shoot through walls. And then we move on to the speed farming type of thing that you already know. I already showcased you that the character can dish out the highest DPS in the entire game, and it's not even too difficult to actually just pull that off. Just have full max attack speed on the Shadowhunter, throw down the ultimate ability, and just keep going using pods and attacking with Shadow Seeker, whatever, and then just keep throwing more ultimate abilities. And essentially that's what the Shadowhunter is going to be in terms of DPS. But that, I'm just letting you know out there. And the other thing is just going to be the speed farming. A lot of people have been saying, the character is not the best at speed farming, but you put in a lot of comparison to the Lunar Lancer, where the Lunar Lancer is not necessarily the best at speed farming. Before you actually just say, oh no, the Lunar Lancer was the best at speed farming. The Lunar Lancer got rework before the Polish Paragon update, so this is before the ring effect. So the Lunar Lancer was not necessarily the best at speed farming, and it wasn't even close at speed farming. It was dealing pretty decent DPS, but the knockback was just so annoying, especially against bosses that take knockback, like Bone Blade and some of the other bosses inside the dells, they actually do take knockback, so the minions will just be pushing literally the enemy literally everywhere, which is super annoying. And so yeah, before I actually just get, oh no, the Luna Lancer can reach 400 movement speed, because I know I already made a video regarding the Need for Speed, but the Need for Speed was after the Polish Paragon update. The Lunar Lancer didn't get rework on the Polish Paragon update, it got rework on the Lunar Leap update, which is before. And so that is a thing that you have to keep in mind. The Shadow Hunter has a no cooldown 45% movement speed buff that is only based on your dodge. It's free completely because it's only your dodge. Your dodge has a 2-second cooldown, the timer is 9 seconds on the buff, so it is super easy to refresh over and over and over again. And then 45% movement speed is the 5th highest movement speed buff in the entire game, and I literally mean by every single stretch of the imagination, literally every single buff in the entire game, and taking everything into consideration. The Shadowhunter has the 5th strongest movement speed buff in the entire game. Neon Ninja Shadow Flip is the 4th. Neon Ninja is, the insane character that quote unquote got buffed, which in reality it did get nerfed, which I tried to do a live stream, but I just couldn't because I was feeling kind of exhausted, just to say the least. When I did the live stream, I might just do another live stream or video in regards to the Neon Ninja nerf, which it got a pretty huge nerf in regards to its one-shot capabilities. Anyways, so the Shadowhunter has the 5th. The Neon Ninja, that a lot of people are just going crazy, has the 4th strongest movement speed buff in the game. The other 3 movement speed buff are going to be Lunar Lancer Need for Speed, Draco Lava movement speed buff, and Path Painter. Those 3 movement speed buff are either too niche or something that you're not going to have it all the time. For example, Need for Speed, it requires you to hit an enemy with Lunar Infused Grapple, so you have to strictly aim to hit the enemy with Lunar Infused Grapple. So if you do miss, that's it. You have to wait essentially the whole cooldown, which is around 15 seconds. Yeah, that is number 1. But once you actually pull it off, 85% movement speed buff, which is insane. Then Lava Draco movement speed buff, again, it literally is right there. You had to touch the lava in order to get the movement speed buff. So it's only on Volcanic Vaults, it is only going to be in Fire Adventure Worlds, and it's also going to be in Geotosa in certain dungeons. So 75% movement speed is not necessarily something that you're going to see a whole lot with the Draco. Then it's 60% with Path Painter that can be used on every single character. So that also includes the Shadowhunter. So yeah, level 9 Path Painter 60% for those who are wondering. And then is Neon Ninja's Shadow Flip 50%. And then it's going to be Shadowhunter 45%. Literally every single other character has lower than the Shadowhunter. Jubilant Sun from Bard is 40%. Dino Tamer movement speed buff is 40 base movement speed. Pirate Disc is 30. Force Flash is 30. Vampire Banquecher is 20. Trailblazing is 20. Allied movement speed buff is 30. Yeah, for the most part, you're generally going to see like movement speed base. Knight's Overcharge is 25. Candy Barbarian is 20 on the Rage Candy. Draco ultimate ability is 15, I do believe timer 15. Lunar Lancer transformation is 30 base. Ice Age is 50. So yes, all of those characters have base movement speed increase versus the Shadowhunter is percentage. Seeing that you can easily reach 200 movement speed for the most part if you do have all of the universal movement speed buff, like I just mentioned, Pirate Days, Trailblazing, Vampire Banquecher, so on and so forth. If you take all of those things into account, that those things will increase your base movement speed, it means that if you're running at 200 base movement speed in total with all those movement speed buff active, which can be activated quite frequently, mind you, and that means the Shadowhunter movement speed buff is going to grant you an extra 90 more movement speed, so you will be running at 300 plus, which is definitely one of the few characters that can actually achieve that consistently. Yeah, and in terms, it just makes the character among top 3 in terms of speed farming. So it is among the best in terms of speed farming. It has the highest DPS in the entire game. It has a really strong basic attack, which, once again, just to compare it, the basic attack is shooting twice as fast while doing slightly less damage than most of the top DPS like top basic attacks in the entire game. And if we even compare it to live server, that's even more ridiculous. A lot of people are just thinking that Oh yeah, because on the very first update it was doing less damage. It was doing like a really low damage at 2 times damage. In reality, it was the reason was is the basic attack was glitched out. You can shoot your basic attack back then on the very first day, and only the first shot was doing 2 times damage. All of the remaining shots were doing 1 times damage. So in other words, on the very first update when it was quote unquote doing 2x or 200%, it was essentially doing 1 times because of there was a glitch going on with that basic attack. So you were doing the same damage as you were doing live. So that's why the reason it felt that you were doing so low damage. So if you want to see how much damage you are doing post update, just go into the live server, go into your Shadow Hunter, activate Martial Emblem, and shoot with your Martial Emblem. That is going to be your new base damage right now. 2.5 is the same damage multiplier than the Knight right now on the live server is doing. The Knight is around in the top 6 or 7 in terms of damage multiplier on the live server, and in being the 3rd fastest basic attack, making the Knight basic attack among the best in the entire game. Yes, some other characters can just dish out slightly higher damage, but the Knight is just faster. It's exactly the same thing right here on the Shadow Hunter. And let me just tell you, this is not including the passive ability that grants you 15% damage increase, which 15% in terms, it just makes your basic attack do from 2.5 to 2.875, something like that. So in other words, your basic attack is doing slightly higher damage than what it says in the patch note, which is 2.5. And once you're hitting an enemy that has been shadow marked, you essentially are doing the equivalent of 2.875, which is even higher than something like the Neon Ninja post buff, by the way. And that's also not even including the passive ability that also gives you an explosion, which is extra lines of damage. So you're shooting 12 shots per second in bursts of 4, so 3 bursts of 4. Each burst will cause 1 explosion, so that's 3 explosions per second. So in other words, you're doing 15 lines of damage every single second, and those explosions are doing 2.5 as well. So you are essentially shooting against a shadow mark enemy 15 times per second, doing 2.875 damage multiplier. And so essentially you have one of the strongest basic attacks in the entire game in terms of damage output, while shooting more for the most part twice or even 3 times faster than most characters, or if not all characters in the entire game. So yes, that's the reason why the Shadow Hunter is entirely fine. I was just going to do a more in-depth in regards to all of this, but I do feel that more of like a 20-minute video just explaining the core reasons why people are just so upset, which is mainly on the basic attack nerf that they did. I'm just strictly going to say, as of right now, after February 11th, there has not been any patch notes ever since. The character is fine. It's entirely fine. It is really powerful. That's what a lot of people are just saying. So yes, I just wanted to just mention that one. The last thing that I wanted to tackle was in regards to the Shadow Hunter no class gen versus class gen, because I do have this screenshot that you're seeing right now on screen. I thought this was just absolutely ridiculous to think about. That the Shadow Hunter is more worth using the character without the class gem than with the class gem. Essentially just pointing out what's the point in using the class gem. I found that really odd and funny, because the Shadow Hunter right now on the live server is doing more damage without the class gem than with the class gem, and it's exactly the same on the PTS, that you're doing more damage without the class gem than with the class gem per arrow. Is exactly the same thing. And the thing is, the difference between on the live server is the same difference than right now on the PTS. It's literally exactly the same difference in coefficient. So if you're using a Shadow Hunter with the same stats with and without the class gem, the damage difference per shot on class gem and non-class gem is going to be exactly the same pre and post patch. It is ridiculous to think about, because pre-patch you're doing 1 times damage multiplier of 100% per basic attack with a class gem, and then you're doing without the class gem 2.5 or 250% physical damage per basic attack, which is a difference of 150% or 1.5 in terms of the physical damage. On the PTS, you're doing 2.5 times damage multiplier on the class gem and 4 times damage without the class gem, which once again is a difference of 150% or 1.5 times damage difference. So it's exactly the same difference. It's literally the only difference is from pre-patch to post-patch is that post-patch can shoot through enemies, and that's it. But because both basic attack can shoot through walls, and not even mentioning that the non-class gem basic attack shoots at maximum of 3 attacks per second with full max attack speed at 300%. That's 3 attacks per second doing 4 times damage multiplier. So in total, in terms of quote-unquote DPS or damage per second on the regular basic attack, it means that you're doing 12 times damage multiplier per second, which, if that sounds familiar, that is exactly the same damage multiplier that you are doing with the class gem before the rework on the live server right now. On the live server, you're shooting 12 shots per second, doing 1 times damage multiplier. That means that you're doing 12 times damage multiplier per second. With the 2.5 times damage multiplier, 12 attacks per second, right now you are shooting at 30 times damage multiplier per second, which is a lot to think about, and that is not counting the 15% damage increase from the passive ability, and that's also not counting the explosions from both of them, mind you, which is still exactly the same. If you're shooting both max attack speed, it's still 3 explosions per second on both ends. So what is the bottom line? The character is entirely fine. It is still boasting of the highest DPS in the entire game, even despite the latest nerf. Some of the nerfs that they say in the patch note, it's actually not even there. So we still don't know if it is going to even be there in the first place, considering the amount of uproar that we've been seeing thus far. I do feel that, the Shadowhunter should remain what it is right now. Just leave it the way that it is, and the character is going to be entirely fine. The Shadowhunter is going to be perfect at speed farming. It's going to have the 5th strongest movement speed buff in the entire game, and probably the best out of all of them because it's completely free. You're absolutely doing nothing but dodging every 2 seconds, which is already benefiting you in terms of movement speed, and it's also giving you a movement speed buff that is the 5th highest in the entire game, comparable to every single movement speed buff in the entire game. So it has both the highest DPS, and it also has one of the best speed farming in the entire game. So just to tackle out and everyone is like, does it really fit in the meta? I would probably just say it's the best overall character in the game. It's a character that is definitely good for the early game. It is not the best at Delph floor clearing, thank god. It is among the best in terms of speed farming for mid and early game, like literally all of those. It is the highest DPS character, so it's going to be the best boss killer. And not to mention, it is a character that is easy as hell to use. You have to take that into account. The characters, in order to do pretty much everything that I just mentioned right here, it requires little to no setup. Like literally, even the early game can do anything that you're seeing right here. It's doing so many lines per hit, and you don't generally need attack speed. So you don't need attack speed, you don't need critical hit. You need it, but you get what I mean. You generally don't need all the movement speed buff because you will be moving above average even without all the movement speed buff. So it's not 100% required like something like the Knight or Dino Tamer, because those characters actually do rely on just having a higher base movement speed so they can get full benefit from their movement speed buffs. It's a character that dishes out pretty high damage in the first place, so you don't need really high stats in order to make it work. For crying out loud, like I just mentioned, I was speed farming with 24k. The list goes on and on and on and on. And yeah, that's essentially what going to be everything in this video. I just wanted to point everything out there because some of the things that I've been saying is like, oh yeah, the character is not good at this. Oh, the character is not the quote-unquote in the meta, which, what is the meta anyways at this point? Because it's the meta boss killing, it's the meta floor clearing, it's the meta being a best overall character, because trust me, it has everything except the floor clearing. Yeah, just, I don't know. This is a video that I just wanted to talk about because it's been it's been pretty upsetting, not gonna lie. Just trying to not only explain and trying to let everyone know, hey, it's fine, it's fine. I'm trying to explain to you, it's fine. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for taking care as always. I'm not trying to throw shades at anyone, and I'm not trying to defend anyone. I'm just trying to just point out some of the things that I just see out there and that are just incorrect. And I just try to explain to you, hey, this is what it really is. Trust me. And after using the character for for multiple hours, not only on stream but also off stream, I can tell you the character is more than fine. Is doing really really well. So thank you everyone. I'm just going to say this. I didn't even tackle like Shadow Seeker, how to even use it, and all that stuff. Like there's so much more than I can just explain. But I am just going to mainly tackle some of the more common complaints that I see. So anyways, that's essentially going to be everything for me. I know that there's going to be a lot of you that you don't even care anything that I'm just going to say. Probably going to leave a dislike and just say something that is just completely untrue, even though I just already mentioned all of the things that I know. But anyways, just wanted to let everyone know it's not bad. Take care as always and keep on hunting.